I brought him coffee that morning like I always did. Black, no sugar. Same time, same smile. But when I walked into the lobby, Marcus didn't smile back. "Mrs. Chun," he said, his voice low. "I need you to sit down." I laughed. Nervous. The kind of laugh you make when someone's being dramatic and you're not sure why. "Marcus, I'm fine. I just wanted to, please." He gestured to the chairs by the window. "Just for a minute." That's when I knew something was wrong. Marcus had been the doorman at Riverside Towers for 6 years. We'd talked about his daughter's college applications, his mother's hip surgery, the weather, small things, safe things. He'd never looked at me like this before, like he was scared. I sat. He sat across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "There's someone watching you," he said. The coffee cup felt too hot in my hands. "What do you mean, watching me?" He pulled out his phone, showed me footage from the lobby camera. Me, walking in at 7:15 a.m. every Tuesday and Friday. Me, leaving at 10:30 for my grocery run. Me, coming back at noon with the same canvas bags. "Okay," I said slowly. "That's just ... me. Doing my routine. Now look at this." He swiped to another screen. A notebook. Handwritten. My name at the top. Dates, times, notes beside each one. Tuesday's bank. Friday's pharmacy. Always alone. My stomach dropped. "Someone left this at the front desk last week," Marcus said. "Said they'd pick it up later. They never did." I stared at the page. My hands started shaking. "Who?" I whispered. Marcus hesitated. "I don't know." But I pulled more footage. "Someone's been coming in here asking questions about you, about your lease, about your schedule. And Mrs. Chun," he looked me straight in the eye. "They knew which apartment was yours before I ever told them." The air felt too thin. I thought about the man at the bank last month who spoke to me like I was a child. The woman at the pharmacy who kept asking if I lived alone. The neighbor who wanted to know if I'd signed my new lease yet. I'd thought they were being nice. Concerned. "There's something else," Marcus said. He reached under the desk and pulled out a brown envelope. It had my name on it, but I'd never seen it before. "This came 2 weeks ago. Someone dropped it off. Said you'd requested it. But when I called your apartment to confirm, you didn't answer, and I kept it. I'm sorry." "I should have opened it," I said. Inside were papers. Legal papers. Photocopies of documents with my signature, something close to my signature. A notarized form I'd never signed. A lease amendment I'd never requested. A change of beneficiary I'd never authorized. My name, my apartment, my life, but none of it was mine. "Who brought this?" I asked, my voice cracking. Marcus looked away. "Someone you know." The world tilted. Because I'd been so careful. After David died, I'd locked everything down. I'd kept my documents in a fireproof safe. I'd memorized my passwords. I'd said no to every pushy salesperson, every too-friendly neighbor, every well-meaning offer of help. But I'd also been lonely. And lonely people make mistakes. I thought about the voice on my phone last week. The one I'd deleted by accident. Or had I? I thought about the woman at the bank who'd said, "Are you sure you understand what you're signing?" In that slow, condescending voice, like I was a child who couldn't read. I thought about my son. No, not him. He wouldn't. Would he? "Mrs. Chun," Marcus said gently, "I think someone's trying to take your apartment." I looked down at the papers in my lap. At the timeline in the notebook, at the careful, calculated pattern of someone who knew exactly when I'd be vulnerable, and I realized something that made my chest go cold. Whoever was doing this didn't just know my routine. They'd been counting on it. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table with every document I owned spread out in front of me. Bank statements, lease agreements, The deed to the storage unit where I'd kept David's things. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, so I made tea I didn't drink and stared at papers that should have made sense but didn't anymore. Because someone had been in my life, close enough to learn my patterns, close enough to ask questions I'd answered without thinking, I kept replaying conversations in my head. Small moments I'd brushed off. 3 weeks ago, at the bank, I'd gone to deposit a check from David's pension, the last one, finally processed after 8 months of paperwork. The teller was new, young. She'd looked at my ID for too long. Mrs. Chun, it says here you requested a change to your mailing address. No, I'd said. I've been at Riverside for 4 years. She'd smiled. Typed something. Okay, well, the system shows a request from last month. Let me just verify with my manager. I'd waited 20 minutes. When she came back, she'd been apologetic. Said it was probably a clerical error. Said she'd flagged it. Said not to worry. But I'd left feeling small. Like I'd done something wrong. Now I wondered what they'd actually changed. If anything had been changed at all. Or if someone had just been testing to see if I'd notice. I pulled out my phone. Scrolled back through my voicemails. Most of them were automated appointment reminders, prescription refills, a call from the dentist I'd rescheduled twice. But there was one I'd deleted weeks ago. I'd thought it was spam. I went into my trash folder, found it, pressed play. A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. This message is for Diane Chun regarding timing on the paperwork we discussed. Please return this call at your earliest convenience to finalize before the deadline. Again, this is regarding the updated documents for Unit 4F. Unit 4F, my apartment. I'd never discussed paperwork with anyone. I played it again. Listened closer. There was something in the background, a voice, muffled, saying something I couldn't make out. But it was familiar. I knew that cadence. I knew that tone. I just couldn't place it yet. I called the number back. It rang 4 times, then went to a generic voicemail. No name, no company, just leave a message. I hung up. My chest felt tight. I made myself breathe, made myself think. Who had I talked to about my apartment recently? The leasing office, obviously. But they had all my information already. They wouldn't need to call like that. The HOA sent emails, not voicemails. David's lawyer had closed the estate 6 months ago. So who? I thought about my son, Eric. He'd called 2 weeks ago, asked how I was doing, asked if I needed help with anything. Bills, paperwork. You know, Mom, just the boring stuff. He'd been so sweet about it. So concerned. He'd also asked if I'd signed my new lease yet. I'd thought it was just conversation. Just a son checking in on his widowed mother. Now, I wasn't sure. I opened my laptop, logged into my Social Security account. It took 3 tries because I kept mistyping my password. My hands were shaking so badly. When the page finally loaded, I saw it. A notice at the top of the screen. Recent activity. Someone had requested a change to my mailing address. The request had been submitted 4 weeks ago. It was still listed as pending verification. I clicked on the details. The request had come from an IP address I didn't recognize, a location I'd never been to, and the new address, Eric's house. I sat back, stared at the screen. No, he wouldn't. But the evidence was right there, in black and white, on a government website that doesn't lie. I thought about the last time I'd seen him, 3 months ago, at that awful brunch his wife had insisted on. She'd been so loud, so overly cheerful, kept talking about how overwhelming it must be for me to manage everything alone, kept saying I should simplify, downsize. You don't need all that space, Diane. I'd smiled, agreed, because that's what you do. You make things easy. You don't cause problems. But she'd also asked for a copy of my lease. Said she wanted to make sure I wasn't being overcharged. I'd said no. Said I had it handled. She'd looked annoyed. And 2 weeks later, someone tried to change my social security address. I closed the laptop, pressed my palms against my eyes. Outside, the city hummed. Traffic, sirens, life continuing like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Because now I had a question I couldn't unask. If Eric's wife was trying to take control of my mail, what else was she trying to take? And how much had my son helped her do it? I didn't confront Eric. Not yet. Instead, I did what any reasonable person would do. I made an appointment with a lawyer. The building was on 4th Street, tucked between a dry cleaner and a coffee shop that smelled like burnt espresso. The sign outside said Community Legal Services. Marcus had given me the name. Said his sister used them when her landlord tried to evict her. They're good people, he'd told me. They'll listen. I needed someone to listen. The waiting room was small. Beige walls. Plastic chairs. A fish tank in the corner with one sad goldfish circling the same plastic castle over and over. I sat with my purse in my lap and my folder of documents pressed against my chest like a shield. A woman called my name, mid-30s, pencil skirt, kind eyes. Mrs. Chun? I'm Allison Pock. Come on back. Her office was barely bigger than a closet, but it was organized. Neat stacks of files. A framed law degree from a state school. A coffee mug that said, nevertheless, she persisted. She gestured to a chair. I sat. So, she said, opening a yellow legal pad. Tell me what's going on. I tried. I really did. But the words came out wrong. Jumbled. I kept backtracking, trying to explain things in order. But there were so many pieces, and I didn't know which ones mattered. She let me talk, didn't interrupt, just wrote notes in neat, slanted handwriting. When I finally stopped, she looked up. Okay, she said slowly. Let me make sure I understand. You believe someone is attempting to gain control of your apartment and possibly your finances without your consent. Is that correct? Yes. And you have documentation? I slid the folder across the desk. She opened it, flipped through the photocopies Marcus had given me. The notarized form, the lease amendment, the envelope with my name on it. Her expression didn't change, but something shifted in her posture. She sat up straighter. Mrs. Chun, have you signed any of these documents? No. Are you sure? I hesitated. Because that's what they do, isn't it? They make you doubt yourself. They ask the same question 5 different ways until you start wondering if maybe you did sign something and just forgot. But I hadn't. I'm sure, I said. She nodded. Made a note. And the person you suspect is involved? It's a family member. My daughter-in-law? Maybe my son? I don't know. She looked at me for a long moment. Not with pity. Not with condescension. Just ... careful assessment. Mrs. Chun, I'm going to be honest with you. Cases like this are more common than you'd think, especially with older adults living alone. Financial abuse often starts with someone close, someone trusted, older adults. I hated that phrase, but I didn't correct her. What can I do? I asked. First, we verify everything. I'll run these documents through our database, see if anything's been filed with the county. I'll also contact your bank, and the door opened. A younger woman stuck her head in. Allison, sorry to interrupt. That Chun case you asked me to pull? I found something. Allison's jaw tightened. Now, you're going to want to see this. The assistant came in, handed Allison a thin file. Allison opened it. Read. Her face went very still. What? I asked. What is it? She turned the file around so I could see. It was a draft, a legal document, dated 3 weeks ago. Power of attorney, emergency, medical, and financial. My name at the top? Eric's name as the designated agent. The signature line at the bottom was blank, but everything else was filled in. Pre-written, ready. This was submitted to our office for notarization, Allison said quietly. It was never finalized because we couldn't verify your consent. But someone tried. I couldn't breathe. Who brought it in? I whispered. Allison checked the file. It doesn't say. Just lists a phone number for follow-up. She picked up her phone, dialed, put it on speaker. It rang twice, then a voicemail. A man's voice. Smooth. Professional. You've reached Eric Chun. Leave a message and I'll get back to you. My son. The room spun. Allison ended the call. Looked at me with something close to anger, not at me, but for me. Mrs. Chun, someone is trying to take legal control of your life. And they're doing it fast. This document references a 60-day expedited timeline. Do you know what that means? I shook my head. It means whoever's doing this thinks they're running out of time. They're rushing. And people who rush make mistakes. She leaned forward. The question is, what are they rushing toward? And what happens if they get there before we stop them? I thought about the voicemail. The pending address change. The notarized papers I'd never seen. And I thought about Eric's last phone call. How he'd asked, so casually, if I'd signed my new lease yet. Like he already knew the answer. Like he was just checking to see if I'd noticed. The call came 3 days later. I was folding laundry in my apartment, David's old undershirts I still couldn't throw away when my phone buzzed on the counter. Unknown number? Local area code? I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Mrs. Chun, a woman's voice. Bright, efficient. The kind of voice that smiled while delivering bad news. This is Jennifer from the Riverside Towers, HOA. Do you have a moment? My stomach clenched. Yes. Great. So, I'm calling because we received some paperwork regarding a transition of occupancy for Unit 4F. We just need to confirm a few details before our next board meeting. Transition of occupancy. The words didn't make sense. I'd lived here for 4 years. I'd signed my lease renewal in February. I wasn't going anywhere. I don't understand, I said. What transition? A pause. Then, in that same relentlessly cheerful tone, oh, well, according to the documentation we received, you're planning to relocate to a care facility, and your son will be taking over the lease. Is that not correct? The laundry basket slipped from my hands. Clothes scattered across the floor. No, I said. That's not correct. I'm not going anywhere. Another pause. Longer this time. Okay, well, the documents we have seem pretty official. They're notarized and everything. Let me just pull them up real quick. I heard typing. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. Right. So we have a signed lease transfer agreement, a copy of your power of attorney designation, and a letter from a care coordinator confirming your move date. It's all pretty standard for these situations. These situations? Like I was a problem to be managed. I didn't sign anything, I said. My voice came out sharper than I meant it to. Someone forged those documents. Silence. Then, Mrs. Chun, I understand this can be confusing. Sometimes families handle these transitions, and there can be miscommunication. But the signature on file matches your lease, so it's not my signature. We really do need to finalize this before the board meeting on the 15th. Otherwise, we'll have to move forward with the information we have. The 15th. That was 11 days away. Who submitted those documents? I asked. Let me check. It looks like they came from a Mr. Eric Chun. Is that your son? Yes, my son. Who used to call me every Sunday. Who used to bring his daughter over to bake cookies in my kitchen. Who'd cried at his father's funeral and held my hand during the entire service. That's son. I need to see those documents. I said, oh, absolutely. You can pick up copies at the management office during business hours. We're open 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. She said it like she was doing me a favor. I hung up, stood there in my kitchen, surrounded by David's old clothes, and felt something crack open inside me. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan. And it had a deadline. I called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. Mrs. Chun, you okay? I need to see the lobby footage again, I said. All of it. When? Now? 20 minutes later, I was sitting in the building's tiny security office, watching Marcus pull up camera feeds on a grainy monitor. He scrolled back 2 weeks. Then 3. Then a month. There, I said. Stop. The time-stamp read 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. The camera showed the front desk. And standing there, leaning against the counter like he owned the place, was Eric. He was talking to Jennifer from the HOA. Smiling, gesturing. She was nodding, taking notes. Then he slid an envelope across the desk. Marcus zoomed in. The envelope had my apartment number written on it in Eric's handwriting. I'd know that handwriting anywhere. I used to correct his homework in that handwriting. He came back 3 more times after that, Marcus said quietly. Always when you were out. Always asking questions. He pulled up another clip. Eric, talking to the building manager. Another clip. Walking toward the mailroom with a key I'd never given him. How did he get in? I whispered. Marcus looked uncomfortable. He told the front desk he was checking on you. Said you'd been forgetting things. Said he was worried. And they'd believed him. Because why wouldn't they? He was my son. He was concerned. And I was just an older woman living alone who probably couldn't manage her own affairs. That's what they'd thought. That's what he'd wanted them to think. There's one more thing, Marcus said. He pulled up the most recent footage. From yesterday. Eric, standing in the lobby, on his phone. And next to him, looking impatient and expensive in a camel hair coat, was his wife, Lauren. She was holding a folder. The same folder I'd seen in the HOA documents. Marcus turned off the monitor. Looked at me with something like fear in his eyes. Mrs. Chun, whatever they're planning, I think they're almost done. I thought about the board meeting. 11 days. I thought about the documents with my forged signature. The power of attorney I'd never signed. The care facility I'd never agreed to. And I thought about my son, standing in my building, smiling at people who trusted him, while he dismantled my entire life. How long had he been planning this? And what would happen to me if he succeeded? I went back to the lobby at 6 in the morning. Marcus wasn't supposed to be there. His shift didn't start until 7. But when I walked in, he was sitting at the desk with 2 cups of coffee and a manila envelope thick enough to hurt someone. He saw me coming and stood up. I couldn't sleep, he said. Me neither. He handed me one of the coffees. It was still hot. We sat in the chairs by the window, the ones where he'd first told me someone was watching. That felt like a lifetime ago. It had been 5 days. I pulled everything, Marcus said, tapping the envelope. Every time your son came in? Every conversation I could recover from the desk logs? Every sign-in sheet he filled out? It's all here. I took the envelope. It was heavier than I expected. Why are you doing this? I asked. He looked out the window. Morning light was just starting to break over the buildings across the street. His jaw worked like he was chewing on words he didn't want to say. My mom died 3 years ago, he said finally. She was 71. Lived alone in Queens. Sharp as hell. Used to do the Sunday crossword in pen. He took a breath. Her boyfriend, this guy she'd been seeing for maybe a year, he convinced her to add him to her bank account. Said it was easier. In case of emergencies. She didn't tell me until it was too late. By the time I found out, he'd drained everything. $60,000. Her whole life. His voice cracked. She was too embarrassed to report it. Thought people would think she was stupid. Thought I'd be angry. So she just stopped eating. Stopped paying her bills. I didn't know how bad it was until the hospital called. She'd had a stroke. Alone in her apartment for 2 days before a neighbor found her. He looked at me. She died thinking she'd failed, thinking she'd been a fool. And I couldn't do anything about it because she never told me. She protected him instead of herself. I reached over and squeezed his hand. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Don't be sorry," he said. "Be smart. Because these people, they count on you being too ashamed to fight back. They count on you being alone." He pushed the envelope toward me. "You're not alone." I opened it. Inside were printed screenshots from the lobby cameras, sign-in sheets with Eric's signature, timestamps, notes in Marcus's handwriting connecting every visit to something official, a call from the HOA, a document filed with the building, a conversation with management. It was a pattern, clear and deliberate. "This is evidence," I said. "Yeah, and there's more." He pulled out his phone, showed me a recording, audio only. "I started keeping my phone on during desk shifts," he explained. "Just in case. This is from last week." He pressed play. Eric's voice came through the speaker. Casual, friendly. "Hey, Marcus. How's it going?" "Good, Mr. Chun. Here to see your mom. Actually, I wanted to ask you something. Has she seemed off to you lately? Like, confused?" A pause. "Not really. She seems fine." "Huh, that's weird. Because she's been calling me at odd hours, forgetting conversations we've had. I'm starting to worry, you know? I don't want her to hurt herself." Another pause. Longer. "I haven't noticed anything like that." "Well, keep an eye on her, would you? If you see anything concerning, let me know. I'm trying to figure out the best way to help her. It might be time to look at other living arrangements." The recording ended. I felt sick. "He's building a narrative," I said. Marcus nodded. "He's been doing it for weeks. Telling everyone you're declining, that you need help, that you can't be trusted to make your own decisions. And I'd had no idea. I'd been going to the pharmacy, the grocery store, the bank, living my life, while my son was systematically convincing everyone who saw me that I was losing my mind." "I need to talk to my lawyer," I said. "Yeah? You do? But Mrs. Chun?" Marcus leaned forward. "You need to do it now. Because that board meeting is in 10 days. And if they approve that occupancy transfer, it's going to be a lot harder to undo." I stood up, tucked the envelope under my arm. "Thank you," I said. "For this. For believing me." "I should have said something sooner," Marcus said quietly. "I kept thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was just a son checking on his mom. But my gut told me otherwise. And I ignored it because no one wants to believe a son would do this to his mother." I finished. He nodded. I looked at the envelope in my hands. At the proof, the timestamps, the recordings, the careful, methodical evidence that my son was trying to erase me from my own life. And I made a decision. I wasn't going to be ashamed. I wasn't going to be quiet. And I sure as hell wasn't going to disappear. "Marcus," I said, "I need you to do one more thing. Anything. Keep recording. Everything. Every time Eric comes here. Every conversation. Every document he tries to file. Can you do that?" He smiled. "Already on it." I walked out of that lobby with my coffee and my evidence and something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope, but I also felt something else. Anger. Because now I knew exactly what Eric was doing. The question was, how much time did I have before he finished? Allison didn't waste time. The morning after I showed her Marcus's evidence, she had me sitting in a conference room at Legal Aid with a woman named Patricia, who looked like she'd been filing lawsuits since before I was born. Silver hair pulled back tight. Reading glasses on a chain. The kind of lawyer who made people nervous just by existing. "This is elder financial abuse," Patricia said, flipping through the documents. "Textbook case." They're establishing incompetency without a formal evaluation, which is illegal. They're forging signatures, which is fraud. And they're attempting to gain control of your assets through coercion. She said it so matter-of-factly, like it was just another Tuesday. Can we stop it? I asked. We can try, but we need to move fast. They've already submitted paperwork to the HOA. If that board approves the occupancy transfer, you'll be fighting an uphill battle. So what do we do? Patricia exchanged a glance with Allison. We need to know how deep this goes, Patricia said. Who else is involved? How much access they already have? Can you get your bank records from the last 6 months? I can try. Don't try. Do it today. And while you're at it, check for any accounts you didn't open, any loans you didn't apply for, any changes to your beneficiaries or insurance policies. My chest tightened. You think they did more than the apartment? Mrs. Chun, people who do this don't stop at one thing. They're methodical. If they're willing to forge a power of attorney, they're willing to do worse. I left the office with a list of tasks that made my head spin. I went straight to the bank, the same branch where I'd deposited David's pension, the same teller who'd mentioned the address change. This time, I didn't smile. I didn't apologize for taking up space. I walked up to the counter and said, I need to speak to a manager. Now, the teller blinked. Is there a problem? Yes, there's a problem. 10 minutes later, I was sitting in a glass-walled office with a man named Robert who kept calling me ma'am like it was a verbal tick. I need a full transaction history, I said. Every account under my name, every authorized user, every change made in the last year. He typed, frowned, typed more. Okay, so it looks like you have a checking account, a savings account, and a CD that matured last month. Who has access to these accounts? More typing? Just you, ma'am. Relief flooded through me. Are you sure? Yes. There's no joint account holder, no power of attorney on file? No, he stopped. Squinted at the screen. Huh, that's weird. My stomach dropped. What? There's a pending authorization request. It came in 3 weeks ago. For someone named Eric Chun to be added as a cosigner on your checking account? The room tilted. Pending. I managed. Yeah, it requires your in-person verification, which you obviously never gave. So it's just sitting in the system. But, he clicked something. Whoever submitted it used your online banking credentials, which means they had your password. I thought about Eric helping me set up online banking last year. How patient he'd been. How he'd written everything down for me just in case. I'd given him my password. Can you see what they did with it? I asked. Robert's face went pale. Ma'am, I think you need to change your password immediately. And I need to escalate this. Why, what did they do? He turned the screen toward me. Transaction history, small withdrawals, $50 here, $100 there. Never enough to trigger an alert, but consistent. Every week for the last 3 months. These are all ATM withdrawals, Robert said. From a location in Westchester. Is that near you? No, I whispered. But it's near my son. The total at the bottom made me dizzy. $4,000. Gone. I didn't make any of those withdrawals, I said. Then someone else did. Using your debit card. I have my debit card. It's in my wallet. Robert looked at me. Do you have more than one card? I thought about it. About the new card that came in the mail 2 months ago. The one I'd put in my desk drawer because I was still using my old one. The drawer Eric had access to when he came over to help with my bills. Oh, God, I said. Robert was already typing. I'm flagging this account. Freezing all cards. We'll issue you new ones, new passwords, new everything. And I'm filing an internal fraud report. Will that stop them? It'll stop the bleeding. But Mrs. Chun, if someone's been systematically accessing your accounts, there might be more. Do you have any other banks? Investment accounts? Credit cards? I thought about David's life insurance payout, the one I'd invested on Eric's advice. He'd said he knew a guy, said he'd handle everything, said I didn't need to worry. I need to make a call, I said. I walked out of the bank and sat on a bench in the cold March air, pulled up my investment account on my phone. It took 3 tries to log in because my hands were shaking. When the page finally loaded, I stared at the balance. It should have been $73,000. It was $61,000. Gone. I scrolled through the transactions. Large transfers. All authorized by account holder via phone request. I'd never made a single call. But Eric he'd called them. Used my information. Convinced them he was acting on my behalf. And they'd believed him. Because sons don't steal from their mothers. Except when they do. I called Allison. She answered immediately. They took it, I said. My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. They took almost everything. How much? 65,000? Maybe more. I don't know yet. Silence. Then, Diane, I need you to listen to me. Are you safe right now? What? Are you safe? Are you alone? I looked around. The street was busy. People walking past with coffee and briefcases. Normal Tuesday morning. Yes, I'm alone. Why? Because people who steal that much money don't stop when they get caught. They escalate. You need to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't let anyone into your apartment. And for God's sake, don't confront Eric until we have a plan. What kind of plan? The kind that puts him in jail. Allison told me not to react. Not to change my routine. Not to let Eric know I'd figured it out. The moment he realizes you're onto him, he'll accelerate, she'd said. Or he'll run. We need him to think everything's going according to plan. So I went to the grocery store on Thursday like I always did. I picked up my prescriptions on Friday. I brought Marcus's coffee on Tuesday morning and smiled like my world wasn't falling apart. And when Eric called on Wednesday evening, I answered. Hey Mom, just checking in. How are you feeling? I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles went white. I'm fine, sweetie. How's Emma? Keep it normal. Keep it light. She's good. Busy with soccer. Listen, I was thinking, Lauren, and I want to take you to brunch this Sunday. There's this place in Scarsdale you'd love. Sunday, 4 days before the HOA board meeting. That sounds nice, I said. Great. We'll pick you up at 11. And Mom, maybe bring your ID and that lease paperwork. I want to help you organize everything. Make sure you're not paying too much. There it was. He wanted me to bring my documents. Probably so he could make me sign something while Lauren distracted me with mimosas and small talk. Okay, I said. I'll bring them. Perfect. See you Sunday. Love you too. I hung up and immediately called Allison. He wants me to bring my lease to brunch, I said. This Sunday? Then that's our timeline. We move before Sunday? I heard papers rustling. I'm going to need you to do something, and you're not going to like it. What? Wear a wire. My breath caught. You want me to record him? I want you to get him talking. Get him to admit what he's doing. On tape. It's the fastest way to build a criminal case. Allison, he's my son, I know. And I'm sorry. But Diane, he's stolen from you. He's forged legal documents. He's trying to take your home. A recorded confession could stop this before the HOA meeting. It could get your money back. It could protect you. I sat down. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. What if he figures it out? He won't. People like Eric, they get overconfident. They think they're smarter than everyone else. Especially smarter than their elderly mother who forgets things. That phrase again? Elderly mother. But this time, I didn't flinch. Okay, I said. I'll do it. The next day, Marcus gave me something that changed everything. I was sitting in the lobby, pretending to read a magazine, when he walked over with an envelope. "This came for you," he said. "Certified mail." I had to sign for it. I opened it. Inside was a receipt. From a law firm I'd never heard of. Bachman and Associates. The receipt was for legal services rendered. Dated 2 months ago. Paid by credit card. My credit card? But I'd never hired Bachman and Associates. I looked up at Marcus. "Do you know what this is?" I looked them up. They specialized in elder law, guardianships, conservatorships, assisted living placement. The air went out of the room. Eric had hired a lawyer. To do what? Put me in a home. Declare me incompetent. "There's more," Marcus said quietly. "I called them. Pretended to be following up on your case. They said your son contacted them about initiating a voluntary guardianship. He told them you were experiencing cognitive decline and needed help managing your affairs. Voluntary guardianship. That's what this was. That's what the power of attorney was for. That's why he needed me to sign documents at brunch. He was going to make me sign away my own rights. And if I refused, the lawyer would testify that I was too confused to understand what I was signing. The HOA would approve the occupancy transfer. The bank would release the cosigner authorization. And I'd be moved into a facility where Eric controlled every aspect of my life, including my money. "When's your brunch?" Marcus asked. "Sunday." "Then you've got 3 days to build a case that proves you're not the confused old woman he's claiming you are." I looked at the receipt in my hands. At the law firm that was supposed to help me, but was actually helping my son steal my life. And I realized something. I'd been playing defense this whole time. It was time to play offense. "Marcus," I said, "I need copies of everything. Every piece of footage. Every document. Every recording you have. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make sure that when I walk into that brunch, I'm not the only one with evidence." I spent the next 2 days building my case. I organized every bank statement, every transaction, every forged signature. I made a timeline. I cross-referenced dates with Marcus's camera footage. And I found the pattern. Every withdrawal happened the day after Eric visited me. Every document was submitted within 48 hours of him asking me a casual question about my lease or my finances. It wasn't random. It was coordinated. On Saturday, Allison came to my apartment with a tiny recording device that clipped to my collar like a brooch. "It's voice activated," she explained. "Just act natural. Ask questions. Let him talk." "What kind of questions?" "The kind that make him feel smart. Make him think he's winning." People love to explain their own plans when they think they've already won. She tested the device. My voice came through clear and sharp. "Remember," she said, "you're in control. If anything feels dangerous, you leave." "Okay." I nodded. But I didn't feel in control. I felt like I was about to sit across from my son and trick him into confessing that he'd been destroying me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Eric as a little boy. How he used to climb into bed with me during thunderstorms. How he'd hold my hand at the dentist. How he'd cried when David died and told me, "I'll take care of you, Mom, I promise." This was how he was taking care of me. By erasing me. Sunday morning came too fast. I put on the recording device. Checked it twice. Put my folder of documents in my purse, not the real ones, copies, and waited by the window. At 10:58, Eric's car pulled up. I took a breath, and I went downstairs to have brunch with my son. The restaurant was one of those places that tried too hard. Exposed brick. Edison bulbs. A menu that called everything artisanal. Lauren was already ordering when I sat down. "We'll do the avocado toast, the smoked salmon plate, and a bottle of the Prosecco," she said to the waiter without looking at me. Then, to me, "You like salmon, right, Diane?" "Sure," I said. Eric smiled, squeezed my hand across the table. "You look good, Mom. Really good." The recording device felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Thanks, sweetie, you too. Lauren's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then at Eric. Something passed between them. A look I couldn't read. So, Eric said, cutting into his eggs Benedict. Did you bring that lease paperwork? I did. Great. I was looking at your rent, and I really think they're overcharging you. I want to go over the numbers. Make sure everything adds up. He said it so casually. Like he was doing me a favor? Actually, I said carefully, I've been meaning to ask you something. Yeah. I got a call from the HOA last week. They said something about a transition of occupancy. Eric didn't miss a beat. Oh, that. Yeah, Lauren and I have been looking at some options for you. Nothing definite. Just exploring what's out there. Options. Lauren jumped in. There are some really lovely senior communities near us, Diane. Places with activities, medical staff, on-site, chef-prepared meals. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. I'm not worried, I said. Well, no, of course not. But you're getting to that age where things can happen. Falls, memory issues. We just want you to be safe. Memory issues? I took a sip of water, kept my voice steady. Have I seemed forgetful to you? Eric laughed. Mom, you called me 3 times last month asking the same question about your cable bill. I hadn't. But he said it with such confidence, such warmth, like he was gently correcting a child. I don't remember that, I said. Exactly. Lauren smiled. That's what we're talking about. Little things. Nothing to be embarrassed about. The waiter brought the Prosecco. Eric poured 3 glasses. Look, he said, we're not trying to pressure you. We just want to make sure you're taken care of. Dad would have wanted that. Don't bring up your father, I thought. Don't you dare. But I smiled, nodded. I appreciate that. I really do. But I'm happy where I am. Are you, though? Lauren leaned forward. Be honest. Isn't it lonely? Don't you ever wish you had people around? Community? I have community. You mean Marcus? Eric's tone shifted. Just slightly. Mom? He's the doorman. He's nice, but he's not family. He's been very helpful. I'm sure he has. Eric exchanged another look with Lauren. Actually, that reminds me. I wanted to talk to you about something. Here it comes, I thought. We've been thinking, he continued, and we'd really like to help you more. With bills, paperwork, all that boring stuff. So we talked to a lawyer, Bachman and Associates. I said. He blinked. How did you know that? I got a receipt. For services I didn't authorize. Silence. Then Eric laughed. Warm. Apologetic. Right, yeah. I should have mentioned that. I just wanted to get some advice on how to best help you. Nothing formal. Just exploring options. Options like guardianship. The smile faltered. Lauren's hand shot across the table and grabbed mine. Diane, honey, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We're not trying to take anything away from you. We're trying to protect you. From what? From people who might take advantage. Eric's voice was firmer now. You're vulnerable. Mom, you live alone. You're trusting. There are a lot of bad people out there. I looked at my son. At his expensive watch. His tailored shirt. His face that looked so much like David's, but wasn't David at all. You're right, I said quietly. There are? Eric's jaw tightened. Mom, I need you to be realistic. You can't keep living alone forever. At some point, you're going to need help. Real help. And when that happens, don't you want it to be family making the decisions? Instead of some court-appointed stranger? Is that what the power of attorney was for? His face went very still. What power of attorney? The one you tried to get notarized 3 weeks ago? Emergency medical and financial. The one that would let you make every decision for me without my consent? Lauren's smile was gone now. Diane, she said, her voice clipped. I think you're confused. I have a copy. Eric set down his fork. Where did you get that? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. Because if someone's feeding you misinformation, it came from the legal aid office. The one you submitted it to? The air at the table changed. Eric leaned back, studied me, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Calculation. Okay, he said slowly. I can see you've been talking to people. People who maybe don't understand the full picture. What's the full picture, Eric? The full picture is that I'm trying to help you, and you're making it very difficult. By not signing away my rights. By being stubborn. His voice was rising now. By refusing to see that you need help. By acting like you're fine when you're clearly not. I am fine. You forgot to pay your electric bill last month? I had to call and fix it. Another lie. I'd paid it on time. I had the receipt. But he was building a narrative. Right here. In public. Where people could hear. Eric, I said carefully, I need you to stop. Stop what? Caring about you? Stop lying. His face went red. Lauren stood up. I think we're done here. Sit down, Eric said. She sat. He looked at me. And when he spoke again, his voice was quiet. Dangerous? You want to know what I think, Mom? I think you've been listening to that doorman. I think he's been filling your head with paranoid ideas. And I think you're scared. Which I get. But you need to trust me. I'm your son. I'm the only family you have left. That's not trust, I said. That's control. Call it whatever you want. But at the end of the day, someone needs to make decisions for you. And it's going to be me. There it was. The truth. Not disguised as concern. Not wrapped in kindness. Just raw, ugly control. Why? I whispered. Why are you doing this? Eric looked at me like I was a stranger. Because Dad left you everything, he said. And you're wasting it. The HOA board meeting was held in the community room on the 3rd floor. Beige walls. Folding chairs. A long table at the front where 5 people sat with matching binders, and the kind of expressions that said they'd rather be anywhere else. I arrived 10 minutes early with Allison and Patricia. Eric and Lauren were already there, sitting in the front row like they owned the place. Eric saw me and smiled. The same smile he'd given me my whole life. It didn't reach his eyes anymore. Jennifer from the HOA called the meeting to order. Went through the standard business. Approval of last month's minutes. Discussion of landscaping budgets. A noise complaint from Unit 2B. Then, next item. Transition of occupancy for Unit 4F, my apartment. Jennifer shuffled papers. We have documentation here from Eric Chun requesting approval for a lease transfer due to his mother's relocation to an assisted living facility. Mrs. Diane Chun is present. So actually, Patricia stood up. I'm Patricia Wolf, representing Mrs. Chun. We're here to contest this request. The board members looked confused. Eric stood up too. Contest. Mom, what's going on? Sit down, Mr. Chun, Patricia said. Not a request. A command. He sat. Patricia opened her briefcase. Pulled out a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. The documents submitted to this board were falsified, she said. Mrs. Chun never authorized a lease transfer. She never agreed to move to a care facility. And she certainly never signed the power of attorney that Mr. Chun has been using to make decisions on her behalf. Jennifer blinked. I'm sorry. What? Furthermore, Patricia continued, placing documents on the table, we have evidence that Mr. Chun has been conducting a systematic campaign of financial abuse against his mother for the last 4 months. This includes unauthorized bank withdrawals totaling $65,000, forged signatures on legal documents, and attempts to gain conservatorship through false claims of cognitive decline. The room went silent. Eric shot to his feet. This is insane. Mom, tell them. Tell them this is crazy. Every eye turned to me. I stood up. My legs felt like water, but I stood. It's not crazy, I said. It's true. Mom, I have proof. Patricia handed the first document to Jennifer. This is a timeline of every visit Mr. Chun made to this building over the last 3 months. Cross-referenced with security footage provided by your doorman, Marcus Torres. She handed over another page. This is a record of every unauthorized transaction made from Mrs. Chun's bank account. Each one occurred within 48 hours of Mr. Chun's visits. Another page. This is the forged power of attorney that was submitted for notarization. The signature does not match Mrs. Chun's actual signature. We've had it analyzed by a handwriting expert. Another page. This is a receipt from Bachman and Associates, a law firm specializing in elder guardianship. Mr. Chun paid for their services using his mother's credit card without her knowledge or consent. Jennifer's face had gone pale. Mr. Chun, do you have a response to these allegations? Eric's voice was tight, controlled. My mother is confused. She's been experiencing memory problems for months. I've been trying to help her, and now someone's convinced her that I'm the enemy. I'm not confused, I said. Mom, yes, you are. You called me 6 times last week asking about your cable bill. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Patricia pulled out her phone, set it on the table, pressed play. My voice came through the speaker. Clear, steady. Marcus, I need copies of everything. Every piece of footage. Every document. Every recording you have. Marcus's voice. What are you going to do? My voice. I'm going to make sure that when I walk into that brunch, I'm not the only one with evidence. Then another recording. From Sunday. The brunch. Eric's voice. Because Dad left you everything. And you're wasting it. My voice. Why are you doing this? Eric's voice. Because Dad left you everything. And you're wasting it. The room was so quiet I could hear the fluorescent lights buzzing. Jennifer looked at Eric. Then at me. Then at the stack of evidence on the table. Mr. Chun, she said slowly, I think you need to leave. This is a setup, Eric said. His voice was rising. She's been manipulated by people who want to turn her against her own family. The recordings speak for themselves, Patricia said. Those are illegal. You can't record someone without their consent. In New York, Patricia said calmly, only one party needs to consent to a recording. Mrs. Chun consented. She was the one wearing the wire. Eric's face went white. He looked at me, really looked at me. And for a moment, I saw something crack, surprise, maybe even hurt. Like he genuinely couldn't believe I'd fought back? Mom, he said quietly, how could you do this to me? The audacity of that question. After everything he'd done. After months of lying, stealing, forging. After trying to take my home, my money, my dignity. He was asking me how I could do this to him. I walked to the front of the room. Stood right in front of him. You called me confused, I said. You told people I was losing my mind. You made them believe I couldn't take care of myself. You stole from me. You forged my signature. You tried to take my home. My voice was shaking, but I didn't stop. And you did it all while telling me you loved me. Eric's jaw worked. I do love you. No. You love Dad's money. I was just in the way. Lauren grabbed his arm. We should go. No? I stepped closer. You're going to sit here and listen to what happens next. Jennifer cleared her throat. Mrs. Chun, I think we have enough information to deny this request. The lease transfer is rejected. Your occupancy remains unchanged. Relief flooded through me. But I wasn't done. I'm also filing a formal complaint with the police, I said. For fraud, identity theft, financial exploitation, and attempted guardianship abuse. Eric's lawyer voice kicked in. You can't prove any of that. Patricia smiled. Actually, we can. We have security footage, bank records, voice recordings, forged documents, expert testimony. And as of this morning, we have a warrant for your arrest. The color drained from Eric's face. 2 police officers stepped into the room. I hadn't even noticed them come in. Eric Chun, one of them said. Eric looked at me one last time, and I saw it. The moment he realized he'd lost. Not just the apartment, not just the money. Me. He'd lost me. This isn't over, he said. Yes, I said quietly. It is. They walked him out. Lauren followed, her heels clicking on the linoleum like gunshots. The board members sat in stunned silence. Jennifer finally spoke. Mrs. Chun, I'm so sorry. If we'd known you didn't ask, I said. Not unkind. Just true. Nobody asked. I gathered my things. Allison squeezed my shoulder. As we walked out, Marcus was waiting in the hallway. How'd it go? He asked. I smiled. A real smile. The first one in months. I kept the receipts, I said. The charges took 6 weeks to process. Fraud, identity theft, attempted financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. Each one carrying a sentence Eric's expensive lawyer couldn't make disappear. In the end, he took a plea deal. 3 years probation. Full restitution of the $65,000. A restraining order that meant he couldn't come within 500 feet of me or my building. Lauren filed for divorce 2 months later. I heard about it through Emma, my granddaughter, who called me crying one Tuesday evening. She was 16. Old enough to understand what her father had done. Old enough to be ashamed. Grandma, I didn't know, she kept saying. I swear I didn't know. I know, sweetheart. It's okay. It's not okay. He tried to steal from you. He tried to, her voice broke. How could he do that? I didn't have an answer. Not one that would help. Sometimes people convince themselves that what they're doing is right, I said. They tell themselves a story. That they deserve it. That they're owed it. That the other person won't even notice. But you did notice. Yeah, I did. And you fought back. I had help. She was quiet for a moment. Then, can I still see you? Even with the restraining order? I know Dad can't, but Emma, you can always see me. Always. You didn't do anything wrong. She started crying again. I love you, Grandma. I love you too, baby. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment that was still mine and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not happiness. Not yet. There was too much grief for that. Grief for the son I thought I had. Grief for the family I thought we were. But peace. Because I was still here. Still standing. Still myself. The bank eventually recovered most of the money. The investment accounts were harder. Some of it had been moved offshore, laundered through accounts I'd never heard of. But Patricia was relentless. She tracked every dollar like a bloodhound. We'll get it back, she told me. Maybe not all of it, but enough. The apartment stayed mine. The HOA formally apologized, which felt hollow but necessary. They implemented new verification procedures for occupancy transfers. Because of your case, Jennifer told me. I didn't thank her. Marcus got a promotion. Building manager. He deserved it. We still had coffee on Tuesday mornings, but now he didn't have to stand behind a desk. We sat in the lobby chairs and talked about normal things. His daughter's soccer games. My plans to repaint the kitchen. The weather. Small things. Safe things. But different now. Because they were chosen, not routine. One morning, about 3 months after the board meeting, Marcus asked me something I'd been avoiding. Do you ever miss him? I didn't have to ask who he meant. I miss who I thought he was, I said. I miss the son who used to call me every Sunday. The one who cried at his father's funeral. The one who promised to take care of me. But that person wasn't real. No, he was real. Once. Then something changed. Or maybe it was always there, and I just didn't want to see it. Marcus nodded. My mom used to say, people show you who they are. You just have to be willing to look. She was right. Yeah, she usually was. We sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the city moved. Taxis honked. People rushed to work. Life continuing. You know what the worst part is? I said. What? For a while, I believed him. When he said I was confused. When he said I was forgetting things, I started doubting myself, second-guessing everything, wondering if maybe I really was losing it. But you weren't. No, but he almost made me believe I was. That's the thing about this kind of abuse. It makes you question your own mind, your own reality. And once you start doubting yourself, they've already won. Marcus looked at me. But you didn't let them win? No, I didn't. How'd you do it? I thought about it. About the moment in the bank when I demanded to see the manager. About the recording device clipped to my collar. About standing in front of the HOA board and speaking my truth. I stopped being quiet, I said. I stopped making it easy. I stopped protecting people who were hurting me. That's brave. It didn't feel brave. It felt terrifying. Same thing. Sometimes, he was right. The first Tuesday of the new month, I brought Marcus's coffee like always. Black, no sugar. But this time, when I walked into the lobby, I wasn't just going through the motions. I wasn't keeping the world in place. I was choosing to be there. Choosing to trust again, carefully. Choosing to live in my apartment, in my life, on my terms. A young woman was moving into 6G that morning. I watched the movers carry boxers past the front desk, and I remembered being that age. Starting over. Building a life. I'd had to do that again at 73. And I had... Marcus smiled when he saw me. Morning, Mrs. Chun. Morning, Marcus. I handed him his coffee. He took a sip. You know, he said, you don't have to keep bringing me coffee. I'm not the doorman anymore. I know. So why do you? I looked at him. At this man who'd believed me when no one else did. Who'd risked his job to help me. Who'd seen me as a person, not a problem. Because I want to, I said. Not because I have to. There's a difference. He understood. That's the thing about surviving something like this. You learn the difference between habit and choice. Between routine and ritual. Between doing something because you're afraid to stop and doing something because it matters. I'd spent months being observed, tracked, reduced to a schedule someone else could exploit. Now, I lived differently. I still went to the grocery store. Still picked up my prescriptions. Still kept my Tuesday morning coffee date with Marcus. But I also did new things. I joined a book club at the library. Terrible books, mostly, but the company was good. I started taking a watercolor class on Thursday evenings. I was awful at it, but that wasn't the point. I said no to things. Without apology, without explanation, and I said yes to things that scared me. Like when Emma asked if I wanted to go to her soccer game, even though Eric would be there far enough away to comply with the restraining order. But there, I went. I sat in the bleachers with the other grandparents and watched my granddaughter play. And when the game was over and Emma ran to hug me, I saw Eric watching from across the field. Our eyes met. I didn't look away. I didn't smile either. I just looked at him. This person I'd loved my whole life. This person who'd tried to erase me. And then I turned back to Emma and asked if she wanted to get ice cream. Because that's the thing about justice. It's not about revenge. It's not about making them hurt the way they hurt you. It's about reclaiming what they tried to take. Your home, your money, your dignity, your life. I still live in Unit 4F at Riverside Towers. I still bring Marcus's coffee on Tuesday mornings. I still watch the city move outside my window and feel grateful to be part of it. But now, When I look in the mirror, I see someone different, someone who fought back, someone who won. Not because I destroyed my son, though his choices did that well enough on their own, but because I refused to disappear. And that, in the end, is the strongest thing any of us can do. So if you're out there, watching someone you love try to convince you that you're not capable if they're speaking for you, deciding for you, slowly erasing you if they're counting on you staying quiet, staying small, staying scared, don't. Keep the receipts. Find your people. Trust your gut. And whatever you do, don't let them make you doubt your own mind. Because you're not confused. You're not forgetting. You're not the problem. You're the person standing between them and what they want. And that makes you powerful. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever lived through something like this, or if you know someone who has, I want you to know, you're not alone. You never were.